how would you describe the current state of quality engineering in Africa?
You have more mature systems, like you have stronger regulations, you have more stable infrastructures. And your users are quite predictable, right? We have unstable internet. It's really a miracle that you can hear me and we've not had issues here. No shade to us, but that's the fact.
What is your personal impact towards the African community?
I see impact can be a little bit emotional, pardon me. So I would say that in two ways, I would explain the impact I've been able to make professionally and in terms of mentorship and in terms of, being a quality leader in the space.
Testing the system, building stability from code to community. We grow reliability. Welcome to QA Roots. Roots of quality, testing the system, building stability.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the QA Roots podcast about Africa.
My name is Leonardo Lanni, and I'm the founder of QA Roots. Our mission is to help companies deliver the best quality for their product and services.
This is the very first episode, so I'm very excited and happy to start this adventure. So today we have here Abiola Rasaq, which is the founder and the CTO of the Bug Detective. Abi is one of the leading authority in Africa for quality engineering. And I would just love to give my warmest welcome to Abi. So welcome to the QA Roots podcast, Abi. So nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Leonardo.
Oh, I'm very excited to have our discussion. So I would like to ask you to give us perhaps like a 1-minute introduction about yourself.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Abiola Rasaq, but you can call me Avi. I've been in the quality assurance space for almost 10 years now, and it's been an amazing journey. I started the Bug Detective in 2021. Basically, I started it as a community to help other people around me start a career in quality assurance. And as we grew, we decided to pivot into a company in 2023 because, the opportunity came and I picked it. So I would say that that's been our journey since then. We've been able to train over 2,500 people for free in quality assurance and software testing. And we've organized multiple events in Africa, basically in Lagos, Nigeria, and, done a lot of virtual events as well, just bringing the spotlight on the field and also kind of just letting people see how important quality assurance and software testing is in our space, basically. So I think I'll just leave that for now. As we get to talk more about me.
Amazing, Abi. This is very, very, very impressive. I would like to dig deeper a little bit into your career. So what really made you decide to go into quality engineering? This is something that really fascinates me, what people decide to go into QE rather than, classic software development or...
Well, I would say that for me, I think I'm one of those people who software testing stopped. Like, it wasn't like I had the outright decision I made the outright decision to say I wanted software testing. It was more like I just found myself there and I made it work. So I studied international relations and history. And for the longest time, I just wanted to be, I still believe I would still be, anyways, work in the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Ministry, represent my country in multiple UN issues, foreign policies, and all of those things that we learned in school. So that was my initial plan. And I I definitely, I mean, when I say I had, it feels like it's still very much alive. But I have an older brother who is a front-end engineer. He used to build, I mean, if you remember back in the days, the 2009, 2010 period, we had like full stack engineers. There wasn't really that thing, this difference between, oh, I'm a back-end engineer, I'm a front-end. So it was like more like a full stack developer. And at the time, anytime he builds anything, he just calls me and say, "Oh, can you check this for me? Can you find any issue here? Is the color good? Is there any typo error?" And that was because he believed I had such a good eye to catch all of the errors in his design. Sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, this color, I don't know. There's just something with this color on my eyes." And I didn't even know I was doing some level of accessibility test at the time, but you know what it was called, and I could literally sniff a typo error from afar. So I used to do all of that for him, but I didn't even know there was a professional role for catching those bugs. But I just used to do it for him and just let him know, okay, you could do better here. You can make this better. Maybe we should move this design here and all of this. Oh, I can't log in here. It was just something I just did. Then I remember after leaving school, I had the opportunity a role popped up while I was looking for job. Due to our environment, I had to start looking for a job, yeah? And I remember that I saw an opportunity to apply for a software testing role. And at the time, they didn't require any technical knowledge. You didn't need to know how to code or anything. They just asked for documentation skills. They asked for communication skills and some other things. And eye for detail. I remember that, my brother has always told me I had an eye for detail. So it was like, check. Documentation, if you've ever studied history and in fact international relations, you know that you are a very good person when it comes to documentation. Like, you're very good. Mm-hmm. It's part of the requirement before you can even graduate. You need to be able to document everything. So I was like, yeah, I know how to document things. And communication skills, we had to do a lot of presentations. So I was very good at communicating. So I said, oh yeah, I have all of the skills. And I decided to just give it a shot. And I got the job. So when I got the job, I got on the field and I'm saying, okay, what you're asking me to do is literally what I have been doing for years with my brother. So it was just very fascinating for me. So I would say that for me, I think that what drew me to software testing is more about systems thinking. I can think about how something works, how to break it, and how it actually affects people. Because I gave you instance of my brother and design colors that affect my eyes. I'm like, oh, if it's affecting my eyes, then I'm sure that a number of people, the blue is just too blue. And I'm like, oh, the blue, the color of the font with the color of the background is there's just something wrong with it. And, if I could literally put all of that together and make suggestions and, just bring up issues that could occur when users are actually using the application, then, if this is actually a road, then I'm ready to go for it. So I gave it a shot, and I mean, the rest is history. I've been doing that ever since then.
Wow, this is so incredible that you got a job that was a sort of a natural evolution of what you had been doing for your brother. This is super cool. And you sound like you've been a precursor for, the accessibility testing topic, which obviously in the last year, especially in this part of the world with the European Act, became more and more important, which I think is a great thing. So this is amazing, Abi. I was wondering, how would you describe the current state of quality engineering in Africa or in Nigeria or more in general?
I would explain this in part. So I would give an illustration as opposed to the US or the EU, then, and I would also kind of just pin it down on the African continent. So I would say that from speaking to many people, including like some of my other colleagues offshore and all, one of the things that I've realized is that quality assurance or quality in general, when we talk about quality in itself, in most organizations or spaces in EU or the US, it's more mature. They have like you have more mature systems, like you have stronger regulations, you have more stable infrastructures. I mean, and your users are quite predictable, right? But if I'm going to bring it back to the African context, if I'm going to bring it back to our own space, it's different. We have unstable internet. I mean, it's really a miracle that you can hear me and we've not had issues here. No shades to us, but that's the fact. So, we have unstable internet, and we also have different device, what's the English? Capabilities. I think that's it, right? So we also have, payment inconsistencies, because when I say payment inconsistencies, I'm talking as regards to financial institutions. We have more fintech. So we call them financial technologies. So we have more fintechs here in this space, and we have that issue. Then we also have, I mean, it's obvious. We have the socio-economic differences as well. So the difference between the very rich and the very poor, it's also really large. What that means is that when we talk about quality, or when we talk about building products here, it's not just about functionality for us. It's about resilience. If I am building a product, I have two things here. I have an iPhone 14 and I have I can't remember what this is, but yeah,
Like an
I have
Android,
these two
yeah.
phones. No, it's I think it's iPhone X.
Okay.
I think.
I know that
So
one, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'll be very interested to know how you would define the current state of quality engineering in Africa or in Nigeria.
It's growing, but when we compare it to the EU or when we compare it to the US, it's very different. And why it's different is because product being built in the African space is different from the way products are being built in US or the EU. When we talk about products being built in the EU or product being built in the US, I personally believe that you're working on a more mature system. You have like better regulations, you have more stable infrastructures. And I remember I mentioned earlier that, you have very predictable user behaviors as well. But when we talk about the African context, it's totally different, totally different. I mean, we have issues around, unstable internet. We have like different device types and their capabilities. We have infrastructural gap and a major challenge, which is the socioeconomic differences. So we have different people at different cadre or different levels economically. So, which means that when we are building, we are not just building for functionalities alone. We're also building for resilience. And resilience in the sense that, are we building product that are robust enough to, fit into our context? Is it inclusive? So like I said, when we have different socioeconomic spectrums, if you're building for only people that are the iOS users, then you're building for a very tiny fraction of the entire population. So there's that. And even when you build for both Android and iOS, you also need to still think about the different OS versions, because there are a number of people, like a larger population, that still use very low-end Android devices. So you need to also still think about, okay, how do we make sure that what we are building, what's that English? What we are building, people in that lower cadre, so to say, can still access what you're building. And I would say that, like I used the analogy earlier, that, if you build for the Silicon Valley, there's a very high chance that it would fail in either Lagos, or it would fail in Nairobi, it would fail in Rwanda, it would fail in so many parts of Africa, because it's not built with our realities in mind. It's not built for our own cultural context. It's not even built for our socioeconomic context to start with. So you can have a very fantastic product that's been built in the EU or in the US. You bring it to Africa and it doesn't necessarily work or doesn't fly. And it's not because it's not good enough, but it's because when the product was built, it was built with certain mature system in mind as opposed to ours. So I would say that when we talk about quality in Africa beyond functionality is up there, because I mean, if it's not functional, then where's the quality to start with? So so aside functionality, we are also thinking about inclusion. We are also thinking about, our cultural context as well. We're also thinking about, for instance, I'll use a very good example. If you build an application and you want the application to be used by a larger percent of our population, then you need to make sure that, there's certain language that you're using that is easy to digest and understand by people. So if you want to use, let's say something called transaction history, and maybe you call it something like analytics or transaction analytics and all. So like my mom will have to always call me to say, Abby, I can't find my transaction history. And that's the truth, because why can't you just use a very simple English? So, you need to just make sure that you understand our culture, you understand our space, then you build for it. So I think that when we talk about quality for us, it's beyond does it work or does it not work? Is it easy to digest by the people that are using the application itself? Yeah, so I think that's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's absolutely a great answer. And you really made me reflect about, we tend to give, for instance, in Europe, for granted a lot of things such as the infrastructure, the network speed. So I actually do remember, 10, 15 years ago with the first, applications in 3G, but the network was still relatively unstable. There was a lot of time spent into, does this thing work when the network is not available, is patchy, or is slow? And obviously now with better infrastructures, these tend to be a little bit more neglected in my experience than before, because you just assume which is working. Well, I get your point that, in a different context, like could be in Africa, you need to, quality means resilience. You need to build things that may not work under the lab ideal conditions, but they may work, for instance, with a slow network, or be also reaching out population through simplified language or more translations and so on and so forth. So this actually gives an impressive, I really love what you said, because obviously this is all part of quality in my opinion, but obviously depending on the context can have less or more relevance, and obviously this in Africa is more relevant. I was then, thinking, I really love what you describe about, your initial doing some basic testing for your brother there, which became eventually one of your initial work. Right now, fast forward to, the amazing company that you founded, so the Bug Detective. What is your current personal impact in quality engineering towards, the African or the Nigerian community?
When it comes to impact, the way I see it, it's a bit different. I mean, impact is impact, whether we like to, break it down or not. Impact is impact. But the way I see it, impact can be a little bit emotional, pardon me. So it can be a little emotional. And I was literally having a conversation with one of, my colleagues from Ghana. And we were talking about, how far we have come as a community and all. So I would say that in two ways, I would explain the impact I've been able to make professionally, and in terms of mentorship, and in terms of, being a quality leader in the space. So I would give it in those two spectrums. So to start from professionally, I genuinely believe that one of the things that really helped me is that having questioning everything. And when I say I question everything, I understand that, they say this is what testing is. If you're going beyond this, you're not necessarily testing again. And I get it. I understand. But I like to question things. And because I like to question things, it allows me kind of think outside the box. And so I'm just giving a background. So because I question, I get to think outside the box. And the moment I get to think outside the box, I get to think of ideas and solutions that can make things better. So when it comes to my contribution in terms of my professional career, I would say that for every organization, before I eventually moved into starting my own business, for every organization that I've been able to work with, one of the things that I have kind of transferred, the kind of ideas I've transferred, is thinking about the customers. Most people are very lost in their head to say, how can we make sure that we want to build something. So founders can be very lost in their head to say, I have this idea, I want to build this. It's fantastic. But is it really what your users need? Is it really what your users want? Because we are in the business to make money. And if your customers don't want what you're building, you're just wasting time, energy, and resources. So I would say that for every organization that I've worked with, that has always been top of mind for me. And it has always been something that I always instill on everyone on my team, even for developers, product managers. Every time I'm in a meeting, I'm always asking, why are we doing this? What does this bring us? Because I also want us to make money, because the moment we make money, you increase my salary. I'm also happy. Everybody's happy. We're making money. We're good. Yeah, so I would say that
Yeah.
while I was working 9 to 5, that was it. Now, going back to now running a business, how have I been able to contribute in actual quality? One of the things that we do at TBD is not just to focus on enterprise companies alone, but also startups. So when we talk about startups, most startups, because they are usually bootstrapped, most of them just think, let's build and let's go. So now we had to create systems and we had to create structures that actually accommodate startups into our product or our quality structure. So how can we ensure that we are supporting startups to make sure that they want to build fast? They don't have so much money like the enterprise companies will pay us to be able to test their platform, but they can still, build something that works. They can still build something that is functional. So I would say that in that line of building structures around our solutions, I think that my company is one of the very first quality assurance company that built something specifically for startups to say, okay, we understand you're bootstrapping, or we think that you're building solutions that would not scale in the market because, the functionalities are dead. So let's support you to make this work. So I would say that in terms of business, that's one of the work we've been doing so far to make sure that whatever our founders are creating, whatever these geniuses are building, it actually works at the end of the day and it can scale. Then in terms of mentorship and my community and all, when it comes to impact, it's a whole lot in that space because it's quantifiable. You can put a number to it, unlike professional part of building a business. And we can start number, okay, we've helped XYZ number of companies push their product life and all. That can be quantifiable in a way. But for the mentorship part and the community part, the numbers they're wild. So one of the reasons I'm saying so is that one of the things that we do in terms of impact has been training for free. And I remember that when I started this, in 2021, it was because I understood how testing actually changed my life. And I'm not even saying it, just throwing the word around. I felt like it gave me something I could work hard towards. And as I was working, I was seeing the result of the effort I was putting into things. So I believe that really works for me. So I began to teach other people. How can I help someone that is just leaving university? They don't know what to do. There's no job for them, and, bring all of them together and say, oh, come, I want to teach you software testing. I know you don't have the money. Don't worry. I will sort it out. Just come. This is the knowledge. Come for 2 months, come for 3 months. And I'm seeing these people get jobs at the end of the day. It's amazing. Oh my goodness. It's
amazing.
I can't find the right word for it. But I'm going to give an example. I'm going to give 2 different examples. Example 1 was, we had a test festival in 2024. And after we were done, I was trying to make sure that everyone was home. So I was making sure, okay, is your ride here? Are you driving? Are you going? So I just always make sure that everyone was, out of the facilities before I leave. So I was doing that. And I met a group of young guys. They were like, maybe they are early 20s. We're together. And I'm like, oh, what are you waiting for? What are you doing? And one of them just mentioned, oh, they're waiting for a ride. And he said, oh, could they talk to me for a while? I'm like, oh, sure. And he told me there were a group of 4 friends, 4 male and 1 female. So they said this joint mentorship program immediately after school. One was like, I had not even gone through my NYC. So NYC is like the mandatory service you have to render to your government, your country, before you start working. So he had not even finished that, but he joined our mentorship and training program for 2 months. Yeah, I think it was 8 weeks for 2 months. And he got a job. And all of them were telling me they all have jobs. And I was just like, it was such an emotional moment for me, which is why I said it can be emotional. Yeah, it was such an emotional moment for me. And while I was still, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so nice. Because I can imagine how they would have finished that and they would have been going up and down trying to get a job. And of course, it was really amazing.
Yeah.
But I thought that was it. So, like I mentioned, there was also a lady and she mentioned that, so she was not even with the group. She mentioned on the side that, oh, she too has something to say to me. And I said, oh, sure, let me know. She says, okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom. She has 2 kids. Husband is a breadwinner. He's the only one with a job. And she saw the flyer to, join our mentorship program. She joined for 2 months as well. And now she works from over. She got a remote job after the training. She got a remote job, and she was like, "Oh, Abby, I started earning 150,000 naira per month." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." She said, "You don't understand. After 3 months, after my confirmation, after 3 months, it was increased to 180." I'm like, "Good job." She said, "No, you don't get it." And she had to break it down to me that even her husband wasn't earning up to that. So her husband was the breadwinner, and he wasn't even earning up to it, and they had 2 kids. So now she's at home. She can still get to take her children to school and come back and get on the job before they get back. And she's now earning so much to support a family. She's never had to support a family before. So I think that all of this has really, I would say that they just kind of just drive me as well to keep pushing. So, so far we've trained over 2,500 people for free. We used to do it for free because we're like, okay, that's the level of impact we want to make. We also have the Women in Software Testing initiative, and that's to focus on stay-at-home moms, and also, help them transition in their careers, not just stay-at-home moms, but even young women, because, the old women in tech thing, it can be very dramatic. So just to make sure that we are giving them guidance on how to actually grow in their career within the tech space as well. Then finally, I mentioned about the test festival. Test festival started in 2023, and the main reason we started test festival was when it comes to the Nigerian space, software testing was never like software development. I mean, software development has all the hype, but testing was never really appreciated that much. And the very first test festival I organized, we called it Celebrating the Unsung Heroes. And why I literally tagged it that way, I'm like, no, we need...
Love it. Love
We've been in this space for too long not to get our accolades. So I said, no, I'm going to be the one to organize this and give us our accolades. We'll take it by force.
Wow.
So since 2023 rather, we had the 3rd edition last year. So we've been organizing the test festival to just, bring more awareness and more spotlight on the quality assurance space. So I would say in total, that's it.
Wow. Abby, beyond impressive. It's incredible. Think about you're welcome. Think about the startups. It's something that I personally feel, because I'm involved as well a lot with startups. And yes, one thing they neglect is quality engineering. All they want to go do is just push and go live and see what happens. And obviously there are a lot of, unfortunately, examples of companies that didn't do any basic testing, and they spectacularly crash on day one because they didn't test it. So it's a great contribution. The mentoring and coaching is impressive. And obviously when you hear stories of people that you definitely change their life by providing this free mentoring and coaching, and and now you got mothers that can stay home, make money, and have a great life. This is absolutely impressive. And obviously the organizing testing conference, this is so fantastic. I totally can recall when you say, we're not the one that take the glory. Typically developers are the one, but there's a lot of hidden work. I'm happy when developers shine, but people should think that it's also because testers are quality people that work a lot and find problems and prevent that this would reach the client. So it's incredible to put everything together in a conference and give also spotlight to this. Everything is absolutely impressive. One more thing that I'd like to discuss with you, I'm concerned about the time, but I'd love to ask you this. The impact of artificial intelligence, which is obviously a game changer for everybody. And I was wondering specifically, how is AI changing things for you?
AI is not just affecting, it's not just affecting the tech space, it's affecting, is infiltrating every part of our lives, to be honest. And I know that people are getting really bored about the whole AI thing. They're like, oh, we know of AI this, AI that. But I think that sometimes the fact that you've heard something so many times doesn't mean that it's not important. It doesn't mean that this thing that people keep reiterating doesn't still mean that it's not still dangerous. And I believe that for our own space, I'm trying to pick my words very carefully. So what I'm trying to say is this. For me in particular, and the way I see quality and Africa and and AI, I believe that this is the time that we software testers actually begin to take up that responsibility of testing AI products. So this is not just about testing in AI in testing, how to use AI product to test faster. I'm actually talking about who is testing this AI. For instance, in Nigeria, a couple of months ago, it was announced that our public service system, some AI models had been integrated with it. And I was livid and I was screaming, what is going on? Where? How? Who? Because now there's so many questions around biases. There are so many questions about users' data. I have so many questions. And I genuinely believe that this is the time that quality assurance, software testing, whatever you might call it, this is the time where we are needed more than ever. I believe that AI is a form of, it's still technology.
Absolutely.
It's a form of software products, so to say. Right. So if we are still in the business of tech, if we are still a software tester, we are still in the business of tech, then onus is on us to make sure that we are actually surfacing risk even within the AI system. So I genuinely think that is what I'm seeing. When you ask me about questions, when anybody asks me, oh, what do you think about AI in Africa now? That is what I'm thinking. And what I was about to say the other time, where I said I was speaking my words, is that my biggest fear, and I'm going to be very honest, my biggest fear is that Africa doesn't become the dump for a lot of badly produced, badly governed AI system. Because if we don't, take up that responsibility of making sure that there are governance and policies around, the integration of certain AI systems into our society, into governance, into organizations, we would just be at the receiving end, and not in a good way, in a very terrible way. So I genuinely think that this is where my stance is when you talk about quality assurance, AI, and the African space.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with everything you say, Abby. And I think you make a very good point to say, people mix AI and QA typically in the way of how am I using AI to improve my QA. It's like, I don't know, writing script in a faster way, but this is one side of the medal. The other side is exactly what you mentioned, is how do we test AI products, which, they are undeterministic, they are unpredictable. And this is where I absolutely agree with you. The so-called human in the loop should be more and more powerful, because when a lot of people are vibe coding those objects, you have no idea what is inside if it's all done by AI. So the human is the one that has to prove that this is working, is not dangerous, is not hallucinating. So I absolutely agree with everything you say. And I think this is absolutely key. So Abby, one last question before we're done. Time like is flying, and that's always a good sign. So what would be an advice or something that you would say to a new young person in Nigeria or in general in Africa that is wanting to go into the quality engineering career? What would be your advice?
I think that the very first thing I would say is learn the fundamentals and learn it so well and deeply. I am beginning to see a lot of people wanting to go into software testing, and the first thing they do is just pick up an automation tool and voila. I genuinely call them people that are very fantastic at using tools, but very lousy testers. Because it's one thing to be able to use a tool excellently, but it's another thing to test, to know how to test, to know why we test, to know how to analyze requirements, how to surface risks, risk thinking. Yeah, the mindset, quality mindset, testing mindset, communication, documentation, So I would say that that's one major thing. And I would also mention that not to test, I don't know if the word is in silos, but basically what I'm trying to say is not to restrict your knowledge around one system, one type of system, but to actually try every other thing. If you're testing, don't just do, you can build a niche over time, but building a niche means that, you've had an idea of what other people do in other spaces. Then you can now decide that this is what I want to do. And what I mean is that try e-commerce, try financial space, try health tech, just have those ideas, because whether you like it or not, just ideas of other part and other systems other products basically would allow you actually on your skill as a tester and even finding defects faster. So yeah, and I would also say don't grow in isolation, don't build in isolation, don't learn in isolation. Learn with other people, grow together, be open to learning new things. I would say that I had like so many ideas about testing or my beliefs of what testing should look like. And, and that's because of my own space and, my own environment. And the moment I start to interact with other people, I'm like, okay, I do understand where you're coming from. And I'm willing and able to be able to say, okay, I get you. I think this makes sense. And I'm able to outgrow certain ideologies I used to have about testing. So I would say that fluidness is what makes you an excellent tester.
Perfect. Well said. I agree. It's all about, the mindset and, and the right attitude about. So perhaps my very last question to you literally in one sentence, if you would like to share anything with the audience.
I think one of the major things, I remember that first when I was at Eurostar and I was explaining something about some of the ways that we test or some of the things that we do in the African context to make sure that our product is better. And they're like, oh no, that's not how to do it. And I would say that, that culture, or is it, I don't know if the word is cultural context or context-driven test, to know that I understand that software test is a broad, and, quality engineering, quality assurance is a broad space, but it's also very contextually driven. What works for party A might not necessarily be, it might be the best practice, but best practice is very rigid.
Yep.
And it's not fluid across, you need to be able to tailor it to different industries and different spaces. Yep. So I think one of the major things that I would share in just one sentence would be that software testing and, quality engineering is very context driven, which means that it depends on your space, your product, your technology, and your users. And so let's test and, think like a user in that space. That way. That makes sense.
Perfect. So it's like the one size fits all to a certain extent, but everything is content
exactly. Software
driven and related.
One size fits all. It can't.
Absolutely.
We don't have
exactly.
I can't even say we don't necessarily have best practices, because best practices can be very rigid. This is the way to do it, but in reality, you can't say this is the way to do it across board. It might work in Silicon Valley. It might never work in Lagos. It might work in Lagos and might just be far-fetched for the UK. Yeah, exactly. So I would say that very context-driven, and, we also need to practice it in that style.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you, Abby. Abby, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Emails, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp.
Perfect. So I will attach all your contacts at the end of the session so our audience can be in touch with you at any time. So, Abby, we made it. We made a podcast. How do you feel about that?
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear feedback. I can't wait to connect with everybody. And I can't even wait for people to, share their own perspective to some of these conversations as well.